Welcome to the Feeling Good podcast. Have you ever wondered why you keep feeling the same way, even when you're trying to change? Anxiety, habits, relationship struggles, sometimes it can feel like nothing really sticks. I'm therapist Kevin Cornelius, and each week I sit down with Dr. David Burns, one of the world's greatest authorities on cognitive behavioral therapy and the creator of Team CBT. This podcast is all about practical tools that actually work. Clear techniques you can use to overcome anxiety and depression, improve your relationships, and build real confidence. No fluff, no vague advice, just effective tools that can help you change the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you live. Let's get started. Today's conversation challenges one of the most deeply held assumptions in therapy, that in order to heal trauma, we have to go back and relive it. In his recent article, A New Model for Treating Trauma, Dr. Burns presents a provocative idea, one that suggests healing may not require digging into the past at all. Instead, David argues that powerful change can happen by focusing on the present moment, by identifying and transforming the thoughts, beliefs, and fears that are active right now. Drawing on real clinical work, he describes cases where even severe, lifelong trauma began to shift rapidly when therapy targeted what patients were telling themselves in the here and now, rather than what happened years ago. It's a perspective that raises big questions. Do we really need to relive painful memories to heal? What if trauma persists not because of the past itself, but because of how it's still being experienced today? In this episode, we'll explore the science, the skepticism, and the promise behind this new model, and what it could mean for the future of therapy.
Oh,
Hi, David.
hi,
That was
Kevin.
a nice greeting. I appreciate that. It's great to be here with you again, and we've got an exciting topic to talk about today that I really love because it's going to be super practical and help people with doing their best at filling out a daily mood log so they can really help themselves with that tool.
Yeah, I would say, if I can disagree with you respectfully and with great
Hmm.
admiration on one thing, it's not an exciting topic. It's a boring topic, like the details of the daily mood log, but the implications of it are extraordinary. And they really have to do with whether or not you're going to be able to use the tools that we've created to change your life. And we're really looking for some pretty big fish when we're fishing here. We're not just talking about going out in a boat and throwing the line over and maybe getting a couple of nibbles. We're talking about capturing a really big fish, and that big fish would be when you're feeling down or depressed. Would be to suddenly have feeling of confidence and self-esteem and joy,
Hmm.
and what can arguably be called enlightenment. And it's the same with anxiety. We're not looking for you to feel, a tad less anxious, but to blow the anxiety out of the water. And
Yeah.
to do that, we're using the daily mood log,
Hmm.
and it's a step by step process, and it looks simple enough. But like anything, there are certain principles involved. And if you understand those principles and follow the rules, you will have a much higher chance of success. And if you don't understand the rules and the principles and you just kind of do it on your own, your chance of failure will be really, really high.
Yes. And uh, I do get personally excited over boring things quite often, by the way. But that's because I'm so excited that I've seen people use the daily mood log to such great success and find right there in that moment, even in one session, a huge change.
Yeah.
and their feelings, you know. So uh,
Yeah.
and I love that we're doing this because you already are so generous with what you give away to people, right? Like you've already shared a blank daily mood log on your website for people to download and use, and you've given lots of instruction for how to use them, to use a daily mood log in other podcasts and of course in your books and videos. um, and today we just got this great opportunity to focus in on how to make it as effective as possible by avoiding the common mistakes that people make
Yeah.
when they fill
Right.
one out, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's dive in and
Hmm.
go ahead and down a daily mood log or daily mood journal.
Hmm.
It has those two different names, but it's
Hmm.
the same tool exactly. And it's roughly a 5-step process. And the first step is incredibly important, and it seems kind of trivial, but it's right up at the top. It says, describe the upsetting event or moment. And
Hmm.
what are some of the errors that people make in the first step there on a daily mood log?
Yeah, I think the a big error would be not choosing a specific moment, but rather putting a generic problem. Like maybe they might write, "I'm not good enough" at the top
Yeah.
of their as their upsetting event, or um, uh,
Yeah.
I didn't get the promotion that I should have, or something like that. They're sort of just
Yeah.
they're describing a situation, but they're not picking one moment in time when, for instance, not being good enough was a big problem for them.
Yeah. I
Or
didn't get the promotion. Couldn't that be a specific moment?
well, that's a thought, I would think. And I would want to know what's the specific moment in time that we're talking about when not getting your promotion really bothered you. Is it right now as we're sitting here? And then we could use that. We could say right now in this session, telling David that, about my promotion I didn't get.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but
Um,
just the statement I didn't get the promotion isn't I don't think that's quite specific enough. Am I
yeah.
right about that?
Um, well, I think if someone put, I didn't get the promotion, I would say, and had on their daily mood log, I'd say that's a good example for us, and ask, say, tell me about it, and what promotion were you hoping for, and how did you find out, and what happened, and that type of thing. But it has to be something specific and real.
Hmm.
Now, I'm going to be your patient,
Okay.
and you'll want you to ask me what I want help with.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you're ready to work on something, and I'm wondering what's the problem that you would want some help with today.
Oh, I don't know. My life is all effed up.
Okay, and
Nothing's going well.
nothing's going well. Yeah.
Everywhere I turn, people treat me like crap, and things never work out for me, and
Okay.
I'm kind of a failure.
All right. Well, first of all, I mean, I'm just going to say empathy, empathy, empathy. I
Right,
would
of
give you
course.
lots of empathy for all of that, right? And make sure we were at the point where you are wanting some help with how upsetting it is to you when you have failures and when people treat you poorly. Um, and then maybe I would check in with you about, there were a few things that you told me about right now, right? Like you say, you make lots of mistakes, and it kind of f's up your life. You said that other people treat you really badly, and you might feel hurt by that, or maybe even angry. And then also, I heard you criticizing yourself and saying, "I'm a failure." And so that sounds like maybe you feel really bad about yourself sometimes. Am I on the right track? Is maybe one of those three things would be a problem you'd want some help with today?
Yeah, and I thought you did really really great there on empathy, and you're trying to get me to select one specific thing, and I often say to people, the most I can help you with is one like 5 second moment in your life when
Hmm.
you were upset and that
Yeah.
you want some help. I can't help you with your whole life
Hmm.
or your whole future, but one moment. But the
Hmm.
cool thing is in any one specific and real moment when you're upset, all your problems will be embedded there, even
Hmm.
problems from the past.
Yeah.
And so when we focus on understanding what was going on with you, like what were your negative thoughts, what were you telling yourself, we'll develop a complete understanding very easily of what happens to you when you're upset. And
Hmm.
and that when you learn how to change how to feel at that specific moment, the techniques that help you at that moment will probably help you at any time in your life when you're upset. So this is a
Hmm.
very fundamental idea. Now, is this the same as what all therapists do? That they focus in on one tiny specific moment?
I don't think so. No. Um, and most likely not. No.
Well, what do they do?
Maybe there's some schmoozing behind closed doors, as we say, and talking about things in general, and maybe kind of analyzing and interpreting, and um, I don't know. If maybe if I use some of your language a little bit, kind of a lot of BS.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and a lot of times therapists have ideas you have to clean out this baggage, unpack this baggage from your past.
Yeah.
And so we're supposed to talk endlessly about your past traumas
Hmm.
and things
Hmm.
of that nature. And so, what we're emphasizing is that the team CBT approach is radically different from that. It's
Hmm.
very tiny, and I call that a fractal psychotherapy. A fractal is a pattern in nature that repeats itself over and over again. Like if you look at a leaf, you'll see that pattern of the leaf is repeated. If you get highly microscopic and look at a tiny part of the leaf, it's the pattern is the same. It just
Hmm.
repeats itself over and over again. You can make a whole tree that way, a whole forest that way. And
Yeah.
all of our suffering is based kind of on this fractal, this one tiny little thing we do that screws us up. And that's why we want one moment so we can
Hmm.
identify that key core belief or the key
Hmm.
distortions that you fall into when you're upset.
Well, I love everything you just said, David, and that's what's helped me do better work with clients for sure. And I want to make sure that I point out for somebody listening, when you had me demonstrate and you were the client and you mentioned a lot of big sweeping problems. The reason why I was trying to do a specificity step and kind of try that first level of specificity of like what's the specific problem you want help with, and then I can ask you what's one moment in time when that problem was really bothering
Right.
you, who was there, where were you, what day was it, at what time, and what was going on. Um,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I,
Awesome.
yeah.
And by the way, we intend this episode for therapists who are interested in CBT or hopefully and preferably team CBT, and general citizens alike. If and this is not trivial because I get emails every day that I mentioned to you earlier with some frustration. People will send me long multi-page emails with
Hmm.
details about their life going way back. This happened
Yeah.
and that happened, and my parents did this, and this happened to me. And it's the exact opposite. It's as if a long, rambling dialogue will contain healing somewhere. And in my experience, it rarely or never does. And so what I would just need is one little moment that you were upset, and then we can find out what was going on at that one moment. Now, how about this, Kevin? Still sticking with step one, the upsetting event and errors that people make in describing the
Mm-hmm.
upsetting event. Would be, suppose in the upsetting event, I write down that my boss doesn't appreciate me, and he's constantly criticizing me,
Mm-hmm.
and my colleagues are don't respect me. They talk about me behind my back. They're jealous of me because I'm smarter than any of them, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm from India, so and I have darker skin, so they're prejudiced against me, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
want to admit that I'm the smartest member of our team. So,
Mm-hmm.
how is that for a daily mood log?
Well, that's a serious problem, and I heard a lot of powerful negative thoughts that you listed. If you were the client, right? There was a moment when you were upset, and that's probably things that you might have been telling yourself that would lead to some really strong negative feelings. But we wouldn't want to write our negative thoughts as the upsetting event. What I would guide you towards gently is, can we find one moment when being unhappy about how you're being treated at work was really bothering you?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, that's right, but I was getting at a slightly different thing.
Or
Uh,
maybe
so,
a relationship problem
so
instead of a
that
mood
was what I was
problem. Yeah.
getting at. Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes they're, as you pointed out so wisely, they're mixed together. But
Hmm.
sometimes we're looking at a relationship problem,
Hmm.
and that needs the relationship journal and a whole different approach from the daily mood log.
Yeah. And so I think that if this was like a therapy session and you were telling me about those problems and I had invited you, do you want to work on something with me? Or would you like to talk more? And you chose to work, then I would probably need to check in with you. I heard you talking about some problems in relationships with your coworkers, and you might want to have a better, more satisfying relationship with them. That's something that's we could offer you. Or you might want to feel better about what's been happening at work, and maybe it's causing you a lot of negative feelings or anger or hurt or feeling um, rejected. uh, what do you think? Is one of those things something you would want help with, or maybe there's a problem you haven't told me about yet, right? But
Yeah,
we have to be specific about
yeah.
what do they want help with.
Yeah, I love that. And I was actually describing a young man from India that I worked with in Philadelphia,
Hmm.
and he had been he was very angry and paranoid
Hmm.
at the first session, and uh, he he uh, he eventually confided to me he was some kind of programmer, and this was the early days of programming, so there weren't that many programmers, available, and he had been fired 6 times in two
Oh my
years
goodness.
from
Oh.
six different employers, and all was the same thing, that he would get angry and paranoid and feel like there was kind of a conspiracy against him. Um, and I'll see if I can figure out what happened with him, because he turned out to be one of the most rewarding patients I've
Hmm.
ever treated unexpectedly. Uh,
Yeah, I remember that story. Do you mind if I tell you what I remember about what happened
yeah,
and see if I'm
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah,
because I love that story. You've shared that in the past, and I think one of the things you had him work on was communicating better with his boss, and actually saying to his boss, I'd like to request that I can meet with you weekly to have you tell me what it is that I have room for improvement on, because I'm so focused on I want to really do a better job than I've been doing. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to do that, to meet with me weekly and give me some criticism, so that I can learn from your expertise and improve. That was one thing that was helpful to him, I remember.
Yeah, that was
Does that
when
sound
once
right?
they moved down to Florida and finally got a new job,
Okay.
and he did that, and it was incredibly successful for him. Uh,
Hmm.
but there were some intermediate. How did I get from his paranoia to
Hmm.
working hard? Doing psychotherapy homework. I'll see if that comes back. But at any rate, the point being that we need a specific moment
Hmm.
when you're upset. And then if it's a habit or addiction, we might want to be using the habit and addiction log, looking at
Hmm.
tempting thoughts rather than I'm no good types of thoughts. So there's different approaches. When we're using the daily mood log, we're really focusing on the thoughts that have to do with depression and low self-esteem and anxiety and things of that nature.
Hmm.
Now, the second step on the daily mood log, as you know, Kevin, is the emotions table, and there's
Hmm.
9 different categories of emotions that you can circle all the ones that you have, and then estimate how strong each category is from 0 to 100. Have you seen any errors that people make in the emotions step of the daily mood log?
I haven't seen errors that people make so much as just sometimes somebody struggles to rate their feeling as a number. And they say, "Oh, I don't want to give you a number. Like it's, I don't see how my feelings have numbers." That's rare, but that's happened a couple of times. And then usually what that shows me is that probably I haven't empathized enough and earned their
Yeah,
trust. And so
right.
we focus on that, and then we come back, and then they might trust me more, and then I say, "Well, think about it. How was it a really strong emotion? Would you put it in the like the over 60 area, or is it kind of milder, more like 15 or 20?" And then they kind of open up and they can pick a number.
Yeah,
So that
I've
would
had
maybe be more of my error rather than the client's error on the mood log,
sure,
right?
sure. I've had maybe 5 or 6 patients in my whole clinical practice who said they couldn't fill out the daily mood log because it would be too upsetting for them.
Okay.
I found a response that was very effective. But I'll let you, give an opinion about that one.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is similar, but sometimes I've had people even say, I don't want to do it as my homework because I don't want to upset myself by looking at my feelings and my thoughts.
Right.
Um, you
Uh-huh.
know,
That's
um,
right. That's exactly what they all said.
yeah. Um, well, I guess I'm inclined. So my first reaction, and you can tell me if I could be making a mistake here, but if somebody said that to me, I don't want to work on this mood log because it's too upsetting, and I don't like looking at my feelings and my thoughts, and that's going to stir up negative feelings for me, and that's not what I'm here for, right? Is that what the client
Yeah,
is
yeah,
saying?
yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, well, then I might have to say, um, uh, I think you're absolutely right to not want to do this mood log right now. It's too upsetting for you, and unfortunately, I don't know another way of helping you with this problem. So I'm wondering if there's something else that you might want my help with.
Well, that's similar to what I did, but I knew it would crop up again with the next
Okay.
problem.
Yeah.
And so what I said instead is, yeah, and well, I'd love to work with you. The problem that you have, X, Y, and Z, is one that I love working with, and it'd be so much fun to show you how to be able to score in the dating world rather than getting shot down a lot. and that gives me great joy. And that it's easy for me to teach people that particular skill set. But sadly, the techniques that I use don't work with patients who refuse to do the homework for whatever reason. And I give you 200% support in not wanting to fill out the daily mood log, the emotions table. But by the same token, then I'm so sad because I won't be able to work with you. And I'm sure there's tons of clinicians out there who, like yourself, don't believe in the value of measuring emotions, and any of them would just be overjoyed to work with you. Now, I'm not trying to get rid of you. I hope you'll stick with me. I have to tell you what the score is. And
Yeah.
all five of them said, "No, you're the one I want to work with." But it was so hard to learn how to do that at first because I was afraid to make my patients accountable.
Yeah. And you know what's so interesting about that, David, is that's the kindest thing that you could have done for them, what you just described, right?
You could have done,
What you just described that you did, the thing that
yeah,
you said, which was,
yeah,
it was like I'm hearing a gentle ultimatum there, right?
yeah.
Which
Oh, yeah,
is,
right.
I won't
Uh-huh.
be able to work with you,
Yeah,
but we can find somebody who doesn't require to
yeah,
work on this. Um, Holding them accountable in that way really was the kindest thing that you possibly could have done. If you had tried to sort of work around that, or
yeah,
um, tried to try to throw help at them, even though they were saying this isn't for me, um, that would have been actually a harmful thing to do, and would have been almost cruel.
yeah,
But so many of us are tempted to do that, who haven't had the experiences that you've had
yeah,
and developed these tools. And it may feel kind of uncomfortable for a therapist to say, I'm not trying to get rid of you, but maybe I'm not the right one for you, because this is the only way I know how to help you, is by
yeah.
having you write your feelings. Um, you know, it's also so respectful, and
Right.
it's loving. And also, I know that I've heard you enough, David, that I know that you don't like telling people what to do. That's something that really offends you, right?
Yeah,
Is this idea of that we need to get people to do things, it's like my way or the highway, or that sort of
yeah,
a thing. You don't like
right.
telling people what to do. Um and when you're dangling a carrot, right, saying I've got these powerful methods to help you, and then giving a gentle ultimatum, but I can't without this tool, and I heard you say that this isn't going to work for you, and then sitting with open hands and accepting that, maybe I'm not the right person for you, and that's totally okay. um, that's so much more respectful, and it puts kind of the ball in their court. They get to decide whether or not they're going to work with you, and so it doesn't surprise me that everybody jumped at that and said, absolutely,
Yeah,
you're the one for me, right?
right, right.
Because you
Now,
didn't tell them what to do, right?
yeah, beautifully stated, and thank you, Kevin, for those wise words. Now, there is a big problem that some therapists and patients have with the 9 categories of negative emotions on the daily mood log.
Hmm.
And it's a very severe and egregious error. It's in the Bible. It refers to the unforgivable sin,
Okay.
and this is what I call the therapist's unforgivable sin. Do you know what it is?
Would it maybe be ignoring a particular feeling?
Well, that's a tenth of the way to the correct answer.
Okay. Well, then I'm all ears. I want to hear this. This sounds great.
Well, if you find out how many therapists in the community sit down with a new patient or an ongoing patient and say, "Let's say how you're feeling. Let's how down, depressed, and unhappy are you?" Circle the ones, and then write, "Tell me how strong is that between 0 and 100," and then
Hmm.
go through these 9 categories of feelings. Almost nobody is doing this.
Mm-hmm.
This combined with the research that I've done at the Stanford Inpatient Unit, the hospital, and also in outpatient settings, that has shown that without these kinds of measures, therapists' knowledge of how the patient is feeling has almost zero accuracy, under 10% on,
Mm-hmm.
on all of these emotions, under 5% on most of them.
Hmm.
So therapists have a double sin. One is you don't know how your patient's feeling ever at the start of the session, halfway through the session, at the end of the session, or between sessions. You think you do, but you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's the second error is telling yourself that you don't need these kind of assessment
Hmm.
instruments. But I can't tell you the number of times, say, on the Sunday hikes. One of the things that I have done, I'm not hiking for some health issues in the last couple of months. I hope to get back to it. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times when I'm working with someone and they're talking about a problem with their spouse or their practice or their feeling of inadequacy. And then I'll go through these 9 categories because I can remember them. Depression is first, and anxiety is second, and guilt and shame are third, and inadequacy and inferior are fourth, and loneliness is fifth. It makes it real easy for me to remember all these different kinds of emotions. And I just ask them. And it seems kind of dorky, but patients just totally love this. And then at the
Mm-hmm.
end, you say how, so I take it you're feeling this and this and this. You just read back what they have told you,
Mm-hmm.
and then you say, how am I doing on empathy in terms of understanding your feelings? And they say, oh, that's an A plus. And it's so easy to develop that mind blowing understanding of how your patients feel, and this is a way to do it.
I love that. And I want to, if it's okay, I'm going to take a step back and talk about this mood log that we're asking people to look at who are listening to the episode, and notice that there's the space where they were writing the upsetting event at the top, and we talked about how to write down a helpful upsetting event. It's one moment in time when the problem is bothering them, and then they need to make sure that they don't skip this feelings chart. That would be a big mistake to not rate, like circle the words of how they're feeling and how strongly they're feeling them. Make sure they do those two things. So I was feeling sad, down, and unhappy at 60%, right?
Yeah,
Anxious, worried, nervous, panicky, frightened,
yeah,
70, whatever that is, right? And maybe sometimes an error a person might be is thinking, well, that's not important. I don't need to put all that down. Or
yeah,
they might circle the feelings but not rate how high they are, and they need all that information, and it's really easy to do. It just takes a few minutes, and most people can do it rather quickly.
yeah,
um, we're kind of walking through the mood log and thinking about kind of the pitfalls to look out for when you're filling out your own mood log, as well as when you're working on one with a patient.
yeah.
And would it be okay if we thought about the best ways for coming up with the negative thoughts, which would be the next step on the mood log? Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, sure. And what are the errors there? Like
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, you mentioned the prototypic one. I'm not good enough, which would be very
Mm-hmm.
typical for almost everyone who's feeling depressed or down or
Mm-hmm.
inadequate. But there can be all kinds of negative thoughts, and there
Mm-hmm.
are errors that people make in writing down negative thoughts. Let's go through this list
Mm-hmm.
of errors and see
Sure.
if you can identify any that you might have been making. Um,
Yeah.
let me start out with the first one is when you're writing down a negative thought, be brief. We're talking about 3 or 4 or 5 words, a short sentence.
Hmm.
And I have people who write me every day. Did I mention this earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they give long, long lists of negative thoughts and problems in their life, and it's just totally overwhelming. And you can see why they're so depressed, because it's like being in a snowstorm,
Hmm.
a depression tornado snowstorm, and everything looks negative, and they just have long rambling, very self preoccupied, I might mention,
Hmm.
negative thoughts. But the first thing is to be brief. And the I can give an example of that, and how that would be helpful to me. I used to give 20 or more 2 day or more workshops around the United States and Canada for mental health professionals. And the uh, after after a workshop, after the second day, people would be rating the workshop, and I would force myself to read all the ratings.
Hmm.
And I remember this one workshop that I got into a bit of an altercation with somebody in the audience, and they were feeling strongly about their point of view, and I was as well. And then that person had a very kind of barbed uh, comment in the feedback, but the feedback overwhelmingly was positive. But then I had the thought, I'm really I really blew this workshop. I've really screwed up, and I felt like a total failure. And I don't know if you've ever felt that way. I think you have, and
Many times.
and
Yeah.
you feel it physically in your stomach, and it's just the worst feeling in the world. And then I told myself, uh, well, let's be a little bit specific here. That's some strong language, David. When you're saying you're a failure. Did you make a specific error in this workshop? Answer: yes, I did. And what was it? Well, it was when the fellow mentioned blah blah blah. I don't remember, but he pushed some kind of hot button for me, and I got kind of agitated and infuriated and indignant, and responded defensively. And that was a demoralizing moment for me and for the audience. And then so I said yes. When he was critical of what I was saying, I made the mistake of defending myself instead of disarming him and finding truth in what he had said and showing some admiration and respect for his point of view. And then when I saw that, and that technique is, as you know, called be specific, I felt tremendous feelings of relief. And I said, yeah, that's true. I did make that mistake. I did screw up there, but that's something I can easily correct. And then I said, I'll make a plan on future workshops. I'll keep a piece of paper on the speaker stand, and I'll just write nice, NICE, on it. And that'll remind me, don't argue with anyone in the audience, but always make them
Hmm.
right. Find truth in what they're saying.
Hmm.
And that has worked so beautifully well. So that's like a short, specific negative thought is very workable. But
Hmm.
long, rambling descriptions of all the things that are wrong in your life are not going to be helpful. Now, you might not want to give up long, rambling descriptions. You might like that victim mindset. It's painful but addictive. So
Hmm.
that's a decision. But if you want to have a chance of blowing your negative thoughts out of the water, a single sentence is going to be a lot more workable than a paragraph or a half a page of long,
Sure.
rambling verbiage.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that I heard that right, which is that you wrote down, you thought of one specific thought, which was, I am a failure,
Yeah.
right?
And I blew
And
this workshop.
yeah, and I failed,
Yeah.
right? And I am a failure,
Yeah.
right? And you took a step back, and because you kept the negative thoughts short and sweet like that and really specific, you were able to then use a method effectively, and the method was be specific. Well, what do I mean
Right.
by I blew this workshop? Is there
Yeah.
something specific a specific mistake that I made?
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and that gave, and when you realized that there was a specific mistake you made, you got a huge relief
Yeah.
from
And
the terrible feelings, right?
yeah. And I love what you're saying. And another aspect of it is the capacity to accept that you can make errors,
Yeah.
to give up your perfectionism and
Hmm.
thinking you've got to be hitting home runs at every minute of every day.
Oh, and there's so many beautiful different directions we could go in right now about that acceptance and that death of the ego that you're describing, and and being specific about specific flaws so that we don't wrap up our self worth and our needing to be perfect and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering if it's okay to take a step back and consider these errors that people often make in their thoughts and get in a couple more. Is that okay?
Oh, yeah. Like the uh, the another rule on writing down workable negative thoughts is don't put descriptions of emotions
Hmm.
or situations. Like, don't say, "Oh, Emma rejected me, and I feel horrible." Well, that's a
Right.
situation. Emma rejected me, and I feel horrible. That's an emotion. So that
Hmm.
goes in the emotions table, and the Emma rejected me goes in the upsetting event.
Hmm.
But you want to have a distorted thought in the negative thoughts column. And so, what might he be telling himself?
There's something wrong with me.
Yeah,
I'm not good enough.
right.
I'm never going to find anyone who wants me.
Yeah, yeah. That
I'm
that
always going to be rejected by women,
yeah.
right? Like those are all different.
Exactly, and those thoughts are just loaded with cognitive distortions. And then
Hmm.
another rule on negative thoughts is don't put questions or rhetorical questions like, "Why am I so screwed up?" Well,
Hmm.
that question can't be answered for a lot of questions. First, scientists don't know why we humans are so screwed up. But also it just there's nothing we can do with that on a daily mood log. What should we do with these rhetorical
Hmm.
questions?
We need to turn them into statements,
Hmm.
because there's an implied statement when I ask myself, why am I so screwed up? I'm basically telling myself, I'm all screwed up,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
We just have to turn it into a sentence, and then we've got a negative thought we can work with.
Oh yeah. And what's another distortion in that? I'm all screwed up.
Well, it might be discounting the positives, or
Yeah, that's a good one. What
um,
what else?
all or nothing thinking.
Yeah, of course. What else?
Mm,
What's the big one?
um, oh, what's the one I'm missing? Emotional reasoning.
Of course. I feel screwed up, so I must be.
Hmm.
And
Well,
what's the really big, huge one?
overgeneralization.
Well, yes, because I'm screwed up in this and that way. I'm totally screwed up and will be that way forever. That's enormous. And what's the hugeoid one?
Am I failing an exam right now? I don't know. Um,
Uh,
well, I'm hearing mental filter.
yeah,
Um,
well, that's for
I,
sure.
I'm hearing self blame.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
there even is kind of some implied mind reading in that, depending upon what the
Yeah,
situation
true,
was.
true.
Um, but there must be something big I'm missing here. What
Yeah,
is it?
yeah. It's kind of a hidden one, a hidden. Shh.
Oh, a should statement. I shouldn't have any flaws.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Um,
Great. Okay.
and these rhetorical
Oh,
questions can
they're
merely.
almost always a hidden should statement, aren't
Yeah,
they? That's what,
yeah,
yeah, I love the way you brought that to life. Yeah, when I'm saying things like, uh, you know, um, why can't I ever get things right?
yeah,
Um, I'm probably telling myself I shouldn't make many mistakes,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And the goal with negative thoughts, the we want positive thoughts. The what well you've got well, those are the errors on the negative thoughts. So what are the two rules for a positive thought
Hmm.
in the right hand column? So people
Oh, yeah.
write me and say I have a fear of elevators,
Hmm.
but I told myself that elevators are perfectly safe, and I believe that 100%. And I'm still afraid to get involved into an elevator.
Hmm.
What error is this person making? Or I've been telling myself I'm not good enough, and I believe that 100%. But then I told myself, well, at least I can heat a bowl of soup. Uh,
Hmm.
and that's 100% true, but I still believe that I'm not good enough. So, what does this person need to learn and understand about positive thoughts? What's the
Sure.
necessary and sufficient condition for emotional change for a positive thought?
Yeah. Well, of course, when somebody's got that negative thought written on their mood log, then they have to come up with that positive thought to prove that their negative thought isn't true in order to feel better. So the
Right,
necessary condition would be that positive thought has to be something that they believe 100%.
right.
Because
Hmm.
we're not trying to trick people into feeling better
Yeah,
or lie to
mhm,
them. And, as you've pointed out beautifully, it's the truth that sets us free, right?
right.
But even something that's 100% true doesn't quite do it, because you could write down anything that's 100% true as the positive thought, and
Yeah,
it might not necessarily be helpful. So the sufficient condition is it needs to significantly crush our belief in our negative thought down to zero, or at least close to it, right?
yeah,
And so for that person that's telling them is afraid of elevators, um, they're probably telling themselves, something bad's going to happen to me in this elevator, right?
yeah,
It's going to crash and I'm going to die, or I'm going to get trapped in it and they won't be able to get me out, or something like
yeah.
that, right?
Hmm.
And so their positive thought can't be, well, what was the example you gave that wasn't going to be too terribly helpful? People write to you and say, I've been
Well,
telling
I
myself,
tell myself that elevators are perfectly safe.
hmm. Well, they probably don't believe that 100%. That's what I'm guessing. You'd have to ask them, how much do you believe that elevators are perfectly safe between 0 and 100?
As long as I'm not on them, I believe it 100%.
Right. Yeah. Um, so that would be I guess we're looking right now at a mistake somebody might be making on their positive thoughts that they write down on the mood log. Is that
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
that's right. And
Hmm.
to cause a change in your mood, the positive
Hmm.
thought has to first of all be 100% true. And
Hmm.
this is the truth shall set you free. We're not involved in rationalizations or half
Hmm.
truths or kind of cheerleading or anything like that.
Hmm.
Um, but it can be 100% true and still not help you in the examples that I gave.
Yeah.
And to help you, it also has to crush the negative thought drastically, lower your belief in it.
Hmm.
And I'm doing a new workshop. It's a little too late for you to register because it's going to be this Friday, but with Jill Levitt, and I'm very excited about it because we're going to show some really powerful ways of generating positive thoughts to crush negative thoughts using the recovery circle that we haven't talked about for quite a few years, actually, and it's still a tremendously powerful
Hmm.
tool. Essentially, you use, we've got well over 100 techniques now to crush negative thoughts, and you use technique after technique until your belief in it goes all the way down to zero. And
Hmm.
some therapists, a lot of therapists, they hear this theory and they just think it's a kind of a general thing. They don't think it's literally true. But this is very much like the laws of physics. And I believe it's impossible to change the way you feel without changing your belief in negative thoughts. And people say, oh, well, when I meditate, I feel better.
Hmm.
Uh, well, when you meditate, you're changing your thoughts.
Sure. Hmm.
That's no evidence. Yeah, but when I go out and exercise, I feel better. So that proves it's body chemistry and not thoughts. Well, have you measured your negative thoughts when you're exercising and what you're telling yourself? Uh, this is a really true theory, and I had an insight about it because our workshop this Friday is going to be on the deeper dimension, and you can go and listen to the workshop because we'll be recording it and making it available like on the internet or on
Hmm.
podcast or something of that nature. It's a full day workshop, so it won't be on a podcast, but we might publish it on the internet on the internet.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
we're talking about crushing self-defeating beliefs and the methods you can use, like for the achievement addiction, you're basing your self-esteem on your achievements or your intelligence or your productivity, or the love addiction, the approval addiction, perfectionism, perceived perfectionism, and all of these. And then the question came up in my mind, how do we, in the workshop we can show people how to give up these irrational self-defeating beliefs and thinking you have to be, that your worthwhileness as a human being depends on your achievements, and you can see that that's bullshit. You have to come to the workshop or listen to it afterwards to see how to do that. But that's fairly easy to show. But then I've raised the question. But to be enlightened, enlightenment talks about, and I don't know what your thoughts are about this, Kevin, the death of the self. And
Hmm.
the Buddha talked about this 2,500 years ago, the great death. And all religions, well, I don't know if all religions, but many religions have talked about this death and rebirth. And that it's a kind of a spiritual a metaphor.
Hmm.
But how do we get people to the great death in Team CBT? Are
Hmm.
there some methods you can use? And what? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the one that jumps out to me the most is acceptance paradox.
Yeah,
Is that on the right track?
yeah. Well,
Uh,
that's certainly a great one for sure. All of these methods have a downside, and the downside to the acceptance paradox is 95% of people will fight it intensely.
yeah.
And But they have a lot of reasons. I don't want to accept myself as less than,
Hmm.
because that's settling. And I have
Hmm.
high standards, and on and on and on. So you can't just tell somebody to accept their flaws.
Sure.
And what methods could we use? But certainly, I love what you're saying. The acceptance is a key to spirituality for sure.
Hmm.
But the what occurred to me is one way to think of enlightenment is when you've crushed your negative thoughts, like the fellow will be working with had the thought, if David criticizes me as a small group leader, or if anyone I respect criticizes me, that would show that I'm a worthless human being, something like that. And his belief in that was about 90%. And it's one thing to get the belief in those thoughts down to 30 or 20 or 10. But yeah, I think for enlightenment, you want to get them down to zero, to where you suddenly see the thoughts that had been the source of your misery for so many years, or months, or whatever, are not only distorted and illogical and unfair, but they're blatantly false. They're garbage. They're total frauds. And seeing that is to my way of thinking a form of enlightenment.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but from a personal way, or have seen it with yourself or your patients. But it's like a complete liberation
Yeah.
from that tyranny.
I agree with that 100%. And I'm glad that you brought that up. And I think you were asking what are methods that help us do that, like
Yeah,
crush a belief like I'm worthless if I'm
yeah,
criticized,
yeah.
or um,
And then in the
and
workshop, we'll be illustrating like 40 methods just for that one thought.
yeah,
And
uh,
there's more than that, even.
yeah. And I'm glad that you're including the recovery circle, because of course we don't know in advance which one of those is going to be right for that particular person.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm guessing probably on that recovery circle is going to be something like the double standard technique or externalization of voices.
Oh, all of those, yeah.
Um, you
But
know,
also at least 5 to 8 forms of explain the distortions. That's always
yeah,
your starter kit. Um,
yeah.
um,
Um, Now we're probably going to have to
Go.
wrap things up here in a little bit, but I want to pull us back for a second to summarize some of the really important things that you've said here today about making use of the daily mood log as successful as possible. Because we talked about making sure we get that specific moment in time, the feelings and how strong they were, and then negative thoughts that we can work with. Because when somebody's writing negative thoughts on the mood log, if they include events as a thought, that's not going to be helpful because we can't prove whether or not that event occurred. It did, right?
Yeah.
Um, they can't write down questions because we can't prove whether or not a question is true. It's basically unanswerable usually. And we can't write down feelings as thoughts. I feel bad because I'm angry or something like
Yeah.
that, right?
Mhm.
Um, uh, so we make sure that we're writing down actually negative thoughts that we can work with. That's the big
The
message
thoughts that are
there.
triggering the
Yeah,
feelings.
that are causing the feelings. And also, I think it would be important to mention that maybe the most effective way to simplify that and do that really well is to make sure we're going one category of feelings at a time from the mood log. Because you mentioned before that there's those 9 different categories.
Hmm.
So it might be important to look at the first one. Oh, I was feeling sad, down, and unhappy in this moment. What was I telling myself that caused those feelings?
Yeah.
And then I'm feeling anxious, worried, and nervous. What did I tell myself that caused those feelings? That can help simplify it and make sure we're capturing everything rather than just kind of off the cuff coming up with generic
And
negative
guilty and
thoughts.
ashamed. What was causing those
Mhm.
feelings? And I had
Yeah.
the thought, I've got to give up this serial killing before I get caught and people find out.
Yeah. Definitely not distorted. Um, yeah. Um, and then I think we also explored a little bit about some common errors that people might make when they come up with positive thoughts, which is
Yeah,
they might be saying things that are just sort of cheerleading, trying to cheer themselves
yeah.
up, right? Well, that's not.
You're a good person. I'm a good
Yeah,
person.
I'm a good person anyway, and lots of people struggle with things like this, so it's okay.
Yeah,
Like that wouldn't be a helpful
yeah,
positive thought. It's not just the power of positive thinking; it's coming up with something that proves that the negative thought isn't true.
yeah,
That we believe 100%. So if we don't meet that necessary and sufficient condition for emotional change, then we're not quite using the mood log correctly, and we're not going to get the kind of change that we're looking for.
yeah.
So
Or if
hopefully
we
that,
do use it correctly, we'll be more likely to get the kind of change we're looking
yeah,
for.
yeah. And so hopefully going over those common errors and how to avoid them and what to do to use the mood log as effectively as possible is going to be helpful to the person who's listening right now, who's trying to use that tool to help themselves, and also to the therapist who's trying to improve their work with their
Yeah.
patients, right?
Now, all you listeners, one last thing that's exciting that I want to tell you about. We want to get your feedback. Like, I have no idea if people found this episode boring and dry as dust in the desert, or helpful because I'm a therapist, or helpful because I'm a general citizen. And we're going to start having a website that you can go to rate each podcast. And it'll be real quick and simple for you. You'll write down what you like the least about the podcast, what you like the best about it, and then how you rated it on a 0 to 4, 0 being how satisfied were you, not at all, up to 4, completely satisfied. And then this will give you a chance to give us some feedback. And you can also let us know if you're a shrink or a general citizen. So we can be having podcasts that cater to both audiences. So we love all of you, and thank you for listening today, and look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thank you, David.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin.
That's it for this week's episode of the Feeling Good podcast. For more information, head over to Dr. Burns' website at feelinggood.com, where you'll find show notes on the podcast page, plus past episodes and lots of helpful resources for therapists and non-therapists alike. We'd love to hear from you. Send us your comments or questions anytime. And if you enjoyed the show, please share it with someone who might benefit. You can also support us by leaving a 5-star rating on iTunes. I'm your host, Kevin Cornelius, therapist and clinical director of Feeling Good Institute, Silicon Valley. Thanks so much for listening, and we hope you'll join us next time for another episode of the Feeling Good podcast.